Okay, it is about 3:05 p.m. and today is Wednesday, March the 2nd. And today I had to do this recording early so that you guys will have it because I have an appointment later this evening and I might not make it back by 7 o'clock. So I wanted to make sure you have it for this week. So this week I'm going to be sure to cover the assignments for week number 4. And I'm also once again, and for the final time, I'm going to talk about the fact that when you look at the rubric, you have to, all assignments should be in APA, number 1. Which means citations in the body, references in the end, Roman 12, cover page, and a reference page. That is the way everyone. I've said that before. So some people thought that the memo didn't have to have it, but that's not true because if you read what it said in the library area, it said that your professor or instructor would give you details on APA if necessary, and I have, and I did. So and then it's in the rubric also, and it's also in the module as well for the assignment. That was for week number 2. So if anyone have any questions about that. Now I'm going to share my screen. Before I do that, I want to remind you that at the end of this week, I will not be accepting assignments from weeks 1 to 3. And even if I do get assignments from weeks 1 to 2, you're probably going to max out on the points unless I've been provided with extenuating circumstances, but I don't recall anyone having done that. So let's share my screen. Okay. And here we are sharing the screen. And let's go straight to the calendar. And I like to look at the month view. And you can see where we are right now. Today is Wednesday the 2nd, our live lecture. Your initial post was due yesterday by 11:59 p.m. Your reply post is due Saturday the 5th by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard. And then your written assignment by 11:59 p.m. on Sunday the 6th. So all assignments that are not, be aware that assignments that are not completed for the week, for the week on Monday is when when they're due, I put zeros in. That is not your final grade, but it is a reminder that you need to get the assignments in. All right. And be aware that the course actually ends on the 18th. That's the last day of class. Excuse me. And all assignments must be in for that week 6. Be aware that there's no assignments accepted on the 19th or after that without extenuating circumstances being provided by an incomplete that was properly applied for. You need to look at the syllabus for that information. All right, so now let's go back and let's look at the announcements for the week. Week 4. So ethics and business law will be presented. And you had chapter 7, 19, and 20 of the text. I also provided you with the corresponding PowerPoints. We're going to discuss the activities, laws and ethics, general versus limited partnerships, and ethics and the business world. And your readings, you should follow them before you complete your assignment so you can make sure you have all the details. But pay attention to what instructions I give regarding the assignments. Your discussion assignment, ethical implications of technology in business. Note the deadline of, as I said, Tuesday, last night, and reply post Saturday. Your written assignment, partnership, and ethics proposal. Again, I encourage you to pay close attention to the rubrics and listen to what I say as I elaborate on the rubrics during the lectures. All written assignments are due on Sunday, okay? So let's take a look at the module. Okay, so now we'll go to ethics and business law. The discussion assignment involves you're looking at this article and explain your reactions to the article in your initial post. Do you agree with the ideas? Why or why not? Elaborate on it. Number 2, reply to at least one classmate's post with your impressions or conclusions concerning that. So very important that you do that, all right? The written assignment. Now, let's particularly pay attention to everything that I'm going to say. This is a scenario, okay? And it says, recall the distinctions between limited and general partnerships. You decide to prepare an executive summary about the duties and responsibilities of each, addressing both legal and ethical perspectives. You are writing this content now with the expectation that it be shared with other investors or partners. Remember, it's going to be a 3 to 4 page proposal that should be double spaced. And you're going to deal with each of these issues. Now, pay close attention to what I'm about to say. Your grammar, your papers will be run through Grammarly, spelling, punctuation, and this APA, very important, in-text citations and references. Remember what I said before. If you have no APA citations and references, you're going to get the lowest column of grade. And I'll explain to you a little bit more, okay? So APA is absolutely important, and it must be in a Word document. So everything I just said, 3 to 4 pages, double space. If you were trying to do a 3 to 4 page paper, single space, you'd be doing way more work than you need to. But it's double space, please. Roman 12, very important with the cover page. All right. Now, let's look at the rubric. I want thoroughly and detailed explanation of the legal and ethical duties relating to general partnerships. The same with limited partnerships, legal and ethical. Advanced rationale for the selection of one or the other, the disadvantages and advantages. And then your spelling format, APA. Now, remember that in order to get thorough and detailed and advanced information in here, you're going to have citations in the body. Limited explanation means, number one, that you didn't go into detail and you did not have citations in the body. Same thing here. A vague or minimal rationale, okay? So you don't want to end up over here. So be aware that I put comments in the grade book to show you how it works, okay? Now that's that assignment. Now, for the final time, that's the assignment, so you got that. For the final time, I'm going to show you how in the grade book that I grade your assignments. Okay, I have not, okay, week 2, I got to do this. Okay, so okay, this is not what I wanted to do. Week number 3, that's what I want to show you. Okay, again, these are assignments I have to grade. Once again, I use the same student at the top. I come over, I look at your attempt, and I see it. Okay, and I download it with these 3 dots, and it tells me if it's a Word document and so forth. The rubric, this is where you get your feedback, because students say they don't get feedback. Each section has feedback. So down here where it says criterion feedback, that's where I write why you ended up. Let me say, if you ended up in mastery, you're not going to have any comments. If you end up in any of these, you're going to have comments about why you ended up in here. Okay, that's where you find your feedback. All right, now you won't find it there if your assignment is late, because it won't allow me. But I go through each section and I do that. So students say, well, I didn't see any feedback. If you go into your grade book and look at the rubric, and you come down and look at the criterion feedback, you will see in there what you need. Now, if it's late, then I have to do it up here where it says feedback for student. Okay? But it's the same thing. The only reason I have to do this is because the system won't allow me. And then I save it. Now that's it. That's how you find your feedback. Okay? So let's get out of that. That's for week 3 assignments, but I'm showing you how I do it. All right. So let's get out of the grade book. Remember, the grades are determined, weighted by the rubric itself. It tells what percentages up front. So let's continue with our discussion, and we're going to talk about laws and ethics. So here's the deal. There's a difference between laws and ethics. However, the laws do, as it says, reflect ethical principles. But they're separate and unique. And if you read this section here, it provides details explaining that laws are here to keep us ethical and to keep us operating in ethical fashions. You're required to follow those laws, or you will suffer ethical violations or consequences. The laws address moral violations. Instead, the focus is on ethics and punishment for violations. In addition to federal laws, lawyers and accountants have our own ethical requirements. We have canon of ethics. And so it depends on the group. Now, we've concentrated pretty much on the government and what the government does here. Now, the ethical issues and matters have been established by laws that have been passed, from anti-discrimination laws such as the Civil Rights Act of '64 to OSHA, occupational safety and health, to contractual obligations dealing with good faith. And we're dealing with organizations like the Federal Trade Commission. Now, the good old SOX Act, as we call it, Sarbanes-Oxley Act, is an example of legislation that is to promote corporate responsibility. I can tell you that this law really kicked in strongly because of what happened with Enron. And if you check Enron and Tyco and WorldCom, you will discover that this was to protect consumers, because what happened is that stock was inflated in Enron and assisted Enron, the energy company, were their accountants at that time, Arthur Anderson. And if you do some research, you'll see that this statute imposed some very serious consequences. And so people went to jail. As a matter of fact, Ken Lay, who was the head of Enron, um, committed suicide, so he didn't go to jail. However, Jeffrey Skilling was the next in line, and he ended up serving time. For some of you in the Chicago area, that name Skilling might sound familiar. He is the brother of Tom Skilling, a weather reporter. They're both from Aurora, Illinois, and went to, I believe, Aurora West High School. But at any rate, it was Jeffrey Skilling who ended up going to jail. I think he either just got out, but he served a lot of time, and there was a lot of fraud. I mean, massive fraud. When you get a chance to Google Enron, and you'll see the importance. So ethical considerations are important so that business operates in a fair and fundamental fashion so that all parties are protected. The consumers, investors, and other stakeholders are not taken advantage of by providing insider trading or providing a situation where stock is inflated, uh, providing false numbers, or in the words of one of my friends who's an accountant, it's called cooking the books, so that the numbers don't really reflect in reality. That's one of the things about accounting that I learned when I took accounting, is that it can allow you to uh, change those numbers around, and they will reflect something that is not the reality of it, and it's a misrepresentation. And that's what I want to say. So just keep in mind that it is important that you not only follow the law, but you operate in an ethical fashion. If you paid attention to me during week one, I say this all the time, that I want to produce ethical, professional, and educated individuals. I usually say that to my criminal justice class, but I say the same thing here. I taught business law here for a long time, and then I also taught business ethics. It was a separate course that I taught, and we dealt with issues like WorldCom, Tyco, and we also dealt with um, some of the banks, Bank of America. We dealt with some other companies. The key thing, and you remember there was a name called Bernard Madoff. He had a Ponzi scheme, and many people lost money. And he ended up spending the rest of his life in prison. I think he's passed away now. But here's the point: is that people lost their life savings, and older people, as well as some noted celebrities, entertainers, even some attorneys that I know were taken advantage of. All right. So it is important that you operate with ethical principles, following the requirements of the laws that have been put in place for the protection of all parties. So now let's talk about two entities. And we're going to just talk about these two. There are other entities other than the partnerships, but we're going to talk about partnerships today. There's also corporations as well, but we're not going to talk about those today. All right. So partners generally are equally responsible for everything if it's a general partnership, and there it requires a valid partnership agreement, and the agreement may determine how much liability the members have, um, and so it must be dealt with in open communication. Remember the ethical statement I made. So consider these scenarios. Two partners begin, and by the way, it takes two or more people to begin a retail business. Strong consumer demand and interests. Both profits and revenues are strong by the first year, and a large number of investors. The investors are eager to get what we call ROI, a good ROI. That's a term which you guys should be familiar with, which means return on investment. So what happens is that one day while preparing a monthly accounting report, one of the partners sees a discrepancy, okay, and figures it might be a mathematical error, and goes in further and discovers that the figures in financial statements, which you know how they're prepared using debits and credits, each are inflated. This is kind of like what happened with Enron, and to make the stock value look greater, which would attract investors. And it was discovered that the other partner, deliberately did that in order to attract shareholders, as I said. So under these circumstances and without a governing partnership agreement in place, any liability for dangers would be the liability of both of these partners. So what the general partnership agreement would do is protect the individuals. So it is important that duties of partners, for example, operate in a fiduciary capacity, operate ethically, full disclosure, obey the laws. And so general partnerships, you have a partnership agreement act, which is found in most every jurisdictions. And then that's it. So all partners are equally responsible for debts in general partnerships. Okay, so now let's talk about limited partnerships. It allows for restricted liability among certain members. And the state law controls limited partnership. There's a Limited Partnership Act. I should say a Limited Partnership Act that controls this and not the general one. As the creation of such entities is the function of the Secretary of State. So the Secretary of States of all our jurisdictions operate under the Limited Partnership Act. Okay, and what happens is that you have limited fiduciary duties. Now here's the difference in a limited partnership. The individuals who are limited partners are not the ones who are operating the business. They don't carry the same risk as a general partner. A limited partnership can be comprised of both general and limited partners as well. But state law requires it, both general and limited partners, to uphold full accountability. So a limited partner generally is one who maybe invests in the business, but doesn't operate the business. That's the major distinction that you need to be aware of in this information here. So the key thing is that the general partners owe a fiduciary duty not only to others, but to those partners who just invest but don't operate, because what they're doing is they're investing because they see a lucrative business and they want to be able to um, get a return on their investment. That's well. So you could take a look at the Limited Partnership Act in your jurisdiction, and you'll be able to get a good understanding about that. But see, one of the things that you need to be aware is that individuals in limited partnerships have to be very clear on what they're doing for the individuals who are limited partners. Remember, you'll lose your limited partnership status if you participate in the day-to-day operations of the business. Then you become a general partner. All right. That's pretty much a thumbnail sketch, but take a look at the general laws in your jurisdiction. All right. So now we're going to conclude with ethics and the business world. So it is very important that you understand that the law and everything has been put in place to protect employees and consumers, and the public. And so the ethical considerations and legal considerations provide safe products, safe working conditions. That's when you get to the Federal Product and Safety Commission with products, and the safe work conditions. The OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, deals with that. And it says here that raising awareness and attention to business ethics is very important, very important. And all of us are impacted. Those individuals who purchase products, they're impacted by um, problems that occur that are unethical because the prices go up. So we're going to talk about a few things that involve safe work conditions, and we're going to talk about safe products. All right, just for a few minutes. So in 1970, the OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Act, came about, that is administered by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. And every employee, every person who works for any company is entitled to safe conditions. And if there are hazards there, the employer can be held responsible. And oftentimes, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a person working in a factory. It could be a person working in an office. And there are fines and other sanctions that OSHA can delve out to individuals. All right. So if you click here, and I'm going to show you, you'll see, let's take that out of here, what OSHA is all about. And it tells you about some of the things that are involved with OSHA. Okay. And various topics. All right. So this is their home page. This is the Department of Labor's Occupational Safety and Health Administration page. So you can find out more details there. But just be aware, just so you're aware, that the conditions that you work under should be safe. Should be safe. When a consumer buys products that is manufactured and sold, it is presumed that those items will operate the way that they're stated to, and in a safe and not pose hazards to the public. Companies like Toyota and Mattel, because of the toys and the cars. When I was teaching ethics in business, we did detailed studies of Toyota, and it was a big issue here. And you can click on this, and you can see what happened is that there were all kind of problems that happened with those cars, and there were people who were injured because of the manufacturing of those cars. It should lead you to it. Just a second. Yeah. So this tells you all about. There's an article. It explains the deal with brakes of the cars, engines catching fire. I mean, there were so many things. You know, when you get recalls on vehicles, which you seem to get quite a bit, those are issued by the Product Safety Commission, but you want to make sure that you're aware of this. So um, there's damages that can come about. This is the same thing with Mattel, where they had toys where they used lead paint and magnets that were swallowed, and they had to notify people about choking hazards. So it extends all across the board. These are just a couple examples. And again, the key thing is to protect employees, customers, and the overall public. All right. So it's important that these laws are abided by. And that's it. So I am going to go stop sharing. And the key phrase I'm going to give you today is business ethics. Give me business ethics to get your points. Okay? Now, be sure that you follow everything that I said today in terms of making sure that you complete the assignments uh, properly. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to me. We got just 2 more weeks after this week, and the course will be over. So, all right, so I will see you next Wednesday at the normal time of 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time with the week number 5 edition of Business Law. So good night or good afternoon.